For more than 70 years, UFO investigations have struggled with the same problem. Too many reports, too little data, too much uncertainty. A witness sees something, a radar operator tracks something, a pilot reports something, a camera captures something, a file is opened, a conclusion is attempted. And then, again and again, the case lands in the same impossible category. Unidentified, not proven, not dismissed, not solved, just unresolved. But now a new question is entering the UAP conversation. What if the next major breakthrough does not come from a whistleblower? What if it does not come from a leaked video? What if it does not come from one perfect photograph, one declassified memo, or one dramatic government announcement? What if it comes from data, millions of data points, radar tracks, infrared signatures, satellite imagery, pilot reports, weather records, flight paths, historical UFO files, astronomical databases, sensor logs, and artificial intelligence trained to find patterns humans might miss? This is episode 5 of our 6-part miniseries From UFO Files to UAP Science. In episode 1, we asked how Project Blue Book's old UFO reports became the foundation for today's UAP data problem. In episode 2, we revisited the 1952 Washington UFO wave and asked what modern radar and AI might see today. In episode 3, we examined Rendlesham Forest and asked how modern sensor fusion would investigate the UK's Roswell. In episode 4, we looked at the Tic Tac encounter as the case that turned UFOs into a sensor problem. Now we look forward. Can artificial intelligence help solve UFOs? Can machine learning separate real anomalies from noise? Can AI identify patterns across decades of sightings, military reports, satellites, radar, infrared footage, and environmental data? Or will artificial intelligence simply produce a more advanced version of the same old problem? More signals, more uncertainty, more questions. Welcome to UFO to UAP. I'm your host Matt Tones, and today in episode 5 of From UFO Files to UAP Science, we are investigating can artificial intelligence solve UFOs, how machine learning is changing UAP detection. Let's begin. The UFO subject has always had a data problem, not because there are no reports, there are thousands, not because there are no witnesses, there are many, not because there are no files, there are archives full of them. The problem is that the data has usually been incomplete, inconsistent, scattered, subjective, classified, or poorly preserved. A witness report from 1952 is not the same as a radar track from 2004. A blurry video from a phone is not the same as an infrared targeting pod recording. A declassified memo is not the same as raw sensor data. A pilot testimony is not the same as satellite imagery. A case file is not the same as a fully reconstructed event. For decades, UFO investigation has tried to build certainty from fragments, and that is why so many cases never fully resolve. The historical UFO era was built around reports. The modern UAP era is being built around data, but the future may be built around something even more powerful: pattern recognition. That is where artificial intelligence enters the story. AI is not magic. It is not a truth machine. It does not look at a UFO video and instantly know whether it is a drone, balloon, aircraft, sensor artifact, declassified platform, or something genuinely unknown. But AI can do something humans struggle to do at scale. It can process enormous volumes of data. It can compare patterns across different systems. It can identify statistical outliers. It can cluster similar events. It can flag behavior that does not match known aircraft, satellites, weather balloons, drones, or sensor artifacts. It can help prioritize which cases deserve serious investigation. That matters because the modern UAP problem is no longer only about whether something strange was seen, it is about whether there is measurable signal inside the noise. And the noise is enormous. Every day, the skies are filled with aircraft. Drones, balloons, satellites, rocket launches, space debris, meteors, re-entry events, atmospheric effects, military exercises, civilian aviation, reflections, birds, sensor errors, weather phenomena, optical illusions, digital artifacts, and human misperception. Most strange things in the sky are not extraordinary. Most will eventually have ordinary explanations. That is not a weakness of UAP research, that is the starting point. The challenge is identifying the small percentage of cases that survive that filtering process, the residual cases, the hard cases, the cases where the data does not fit. And that is where AI become one of the most important tools in future UAP investigation. Not because it will confirm belief, but because it may help remove noise. Question for you: would you trust an AI assisted UAP investigation more than a traditional government report, or would you still need human experts to verify every conclusion? Add your answer in the comments because this is one of the biggest questions facing the future of UAP research. Now, to understand how AI could change UAP detection, we need to understand what machine learning actually does. At its simplest, machine learning is a way of training computer systems to recognize patterns in data. Show a system enough examples of known aircraft, and it may learn what aircraft patterns look like. Show it enough satellite tracks, and it may learn what satellite movement looks like. Show it enough weather effects, and it may learn what certain atmospheric patterns look like. Show it enough drone signatures, and it may learn how drones behave under certain conditions. Then, when a new event appears, the system can compare it against what it has learned. Does this look like a plane? Does it look like a balloon? Does it look like a satellite? Does it look like a sensor artifact? Does it look like a known atmospheric effect? Or does it sit outside the normal pattern? That last category is where anomaly detection begins. Anomaly detection does not mean alien detection, and that is critical. An anomaly is simply something that does not match the expected pattern. It may be extraordinary, it may be ordinary but poorly documented, it may be a new kind of drone, it may be a rare weather effect, it may be a sensor malfunction, it may be a classified platform, it may be a mistake in the dataset. It may be something genuinely unexplained. AI can flag the anomaly. It cannot automatically explain it, and that is why human experts will remain essential. Radar specialists, pilots, atmospheric scientists, data scientists, astronomers, military analysts, sensor engineers, intelligence officials, aviation experts. All of them are needed. AI is not the investigator, AI is the filter, the assistant, the pattern detector, the system that says, out of 10,000 events, these 30 look unusual. Out of those 30, these 5 deserve deeper review. That could change everything, because one of the greatest weaknesses of historical UFO research was that investigators were overwhelmed by individual cases. Project Blue Book collected thousands of reports. Many were explainable, some were not. But the process was human, slow, inconsistent, and limited by the tools of the time. Today, we could take historical files and treat them as a data set. We could digitize reports, extract locations, dates, times, descriptions, weather conditions, witness types, object shapes, motion patterns, duration, proximity to military facilities, official explanations, unresolved classifications. Then artificial intelligence could search for patterns. What certain types of reports clustered near military bases? Did certain descriptions increase after media coverage? Were some events linked to known astronomical cycles? Did reports correlate with Cold War testing periods? Were certain explanations overused? Were some cases classified as explainable despite weak supporting evidence? Which unresolved cases had the strongest data? That is a new way to study UFO history, not as isolated legends, but as a structured archive. A messy archive, yes, an incomplete archive, absolutely, but still an archive that can be mined for patterns. This is one of the major promises of artificial intelligence. It can help turn old UFO files into usable UAP data, and that is the entire arc of this mini-series, from files to data to science. Now let's bring this into the present. Modern UAP detection is not only about historical archives, it is about live systems, radar networks, infrared sensors, electro-optical cameras, satellite imagery, maritime surveillance, air traffic systems, military training range data, space tracking networks, weather databases, drone detection systems. All of these systems create data, but they were not necessarily built to detect UAPs. That is important. A radar system may be designed to detect aircraft or missiles. A satellite might be designed for weather, mapping, communications, or intelligence. A camera may be designed for targeting or security. A sensor may filter out objects that seem irrelevant. A system may ignore slow objects, small objects, low reflectivity objects, or unusual returns. Sometimes the unknown may be filtered out before anyone even sees it. This is one of the most important technical challenges in UAP research. If your system is built to look for known threats, what happens when an event does not fit the expected category? Does the system preserve it, ignore it, discard it, classify it as noise, flag it as a sensor error, or pass it to an analyst? This is where artificial intelligence could help, but also where AI could create risk. If trained poorly, AI might filter out exactly the anomalies researchers want to study. If trained too aggressively, it might label unusual but important data as cluster. If trained on biased data sets, it might only recognize what humans already expect. If trained without transparency, it might produce conclusions no one can explain. That is why AI in UAP research must be used carefully. The goal should not be to automate belief. The goal should be to improve detection, classification, and prioritization, and every AI result should be reviewable. If artificial intelligence flags something as anomalous, investigators need to know why. What features stood out? Speed, trajectory, altitude, infrared signature, lack of transponder, sensor correlation, motion pattern, environmental mismatch. If the system cannot explain why it flagged the event, trust becomes difficult. This is a major issue in artificial intelligence more broadly. Black box systems can produce results without clear reasoning. That is dangerous in UAP research because the field already suffers from mistrust. The last thing the public needs is a government saying the AI says this is not anomalous, but we cannot explain why, or the AI says this is anomalous, but we cannot show the data. That would not build trust. It would create a new kind of secrecy, algorithmic secrecy. Instead, UAP research needs explainable AI, systems that can show what data was used, what alternatives were considered, what confidence level was assigned, and what evidence drove the conclusion. That is how AI becomes useful, not by replacing transparency, by improving it. Question for you. Would you accept an AI conclusion on a UAP case if the government did not release the raw data behind it? Tell me in the comments because AI only builds trust if the process can be examined. Now let's connect this to the Tic Tac case. The Tic Tac became famous because it involved witnesses, reported radar activity, and a targeting pod video. But imagine if that case happened today inside a mature AI-assisted UAP detection system. The moment unusual radar tracks appeared, AI could compare them against known flight paths, known aircraft, known exercises, weather data, sensor anomalies, historical range activity, satellite passes, drone activity, electronic warfare conditions. If the track still looked unusual, it could be flagged. If a pilot visually acquired the object, the pilot's report could be time synchronized with the sensor records. If infrared video was captured, AI assisted image analysis could examine motion, contrast, heat signature, background, and sensor behavior. If the object appeared at a distant combat air patrol point, the system could test whether the movement was continuous, whether it was the same object, whether tracking continuity existed, and whether alternative explanations fit. That does not mean AI would solve the tic tac, but it could help preserve the case properly. It could reduce uncertainty. It could identify what data was missing. It could prevent the event from becoming a fragmented public mystery years later. This is one of the strongest arguments for artificial intelligence in UAP research. Not that it will reveal aliens, but that it may prevent evidence loss. Because many historical UFO cases became mysteries partly because the evidence was not collected properly at the time. AI assisted systems could change that. They could automatically flag unusual events, automatically preserve data, automatically create timelines, automatically compare against known explanations, automatically route cases to human analysts. That could make future UAP cases far more useful than old UFO cases. But there is a catch. Artificial intelligence can only work with the data it receives. Bad data in, bad analysis out. If the sensor is poor, the conclusion is weak. If the timestamp is wrong, the correlation fails. If the metadata is missing, the event is harder to reconstruct. If the video is compressed, edited, or stripped of context, AI analysis becomes limited. If the radar data is classified and unavailable, independent review suffers. If the data set is biased towards certain kinds of reports, the AI may miss unusual categories. This is why artificial intelligence is not a shortcut around evidence standards. It actually increases the need for evidence standards. Better sensor, better metadata, better chain of custody, better calibration, better logging, better preservation, better access, and even better scientific review. Without those, AI simply becomes a faster way to process uncertainty. Now let's talk about satellites. Satellite data is often treated by the public as if it should solve everything. People ask, if UAP are real, why don't satellites see them? And that is a fair question, but it misunderstands how satellites work. Satellites are not all-seeing eyes. They have specific purposes, specific sensors, specific audits, very specific resolutions and fields of view, and specific revisit times. A satellite may not be looking at the right place. It may not be looking at the right time. It may not have the right sensor. It may not capture a small, fast-moving object. It may collect data that is classified. It may produce imagery that is difficult to interpret. Artificial intelligence could help search satellite data for anomalies, but again, only if the data exists and is accessible. A mature UAP detection framework might use satellites in combination with other systems, not as the sole answer, but as one layer. Suppose a radar system detects an unknown object. AI checks flight data and finds no match. Infrared sensors capture a heat signature. A satellite pass occurred near the same time. Weather data rules out certain atmospheric explanations. The case becomes stronger. If satellite data shows nothing, that does not automatically disprove the case. It may simply mean the satellite was not in position, not sensitive to the object, or not collecting the right kind of data. And this is why sensor fusion matters more than any single sensor. No one system will solve UAPs. The future is layered detection. Radar, infrared, optical, satellite, signals, environmental data, human reports, AI correlation, and scientific analysis. That is the direction the field must move. Now, let's talk about historical UFO archives again. Could artificial intelligence reopen old cases? In some cases, yes, but with limits. For a historical case like the 1952 Washington wave, AI could analyze weather data, radar reports, newspaper timing, witness descriptions, known aircraft activity, and official explanations. It might find that many reports cluster around atmospheric conditions. It might find that some descriptions were likely influenced by media coverage. It might identify a smaller set of cases that remain more interesting. For Rendlesham, AI could compare witness statements, timelines, geography, lighthouse sightlines, astronomical data, audio timestamps, and later testimony. It might help clarify which claims are early and which emerge later. It might test line of sight explanations. It might reconstruct movement through the forest. Project Blue Book, artificial intelligence could examine thousands of reports and identify patterns across time, geography, and classification outcomes. But AI cannot create missing evidence. If a radar track was never preserved, AI cannot restore it. If a witness was never interviewed properly, AI cannot reconstruct their exact perception. If a physical scene was contaminated, AI cannot undo it. If a file lacks metadata, AI must work with uncertainty. And this is the hard truth. Artificial intelligence may help explain some historical cases, but many old UFO mysteries will remain unresolved because their evidence was never strong enough to begin with. That is not a failure, that is reality. The value of AI may be less about solving every old case and more about teaching us how not to lose future cases. That may be the most important point in this episode. Artificial intelligence's greatest contribution to UAP research may not be historical certainty, it may be future prevention. Preventing cases from becoming permanently ambiguous, preventing sensor data from being discarded, preventing witness testimony from being captured too late, preventing files from becoming disconnected from raw data, preventing the next major UAP event from turning into another decade-long argument. Question for you. Do you think AI should be used mainly to reanalyze old UFO files, or should it focus on detecting new UAP events in real time? Drop your answer in the comments because both paths could shape the future of UFO disclosure. Now let's address the biggest public fear. Could AI be used to hide UAP evidence? Yes, that possibility needs to be taken seriously. Any technology that can detect can also filter. Any system that can classify can also suppress. Any algorithm that can prioritize can also bury. If a government or agency controls the data, controls the model, controls the classification rules, and controls the public output, AI could become another layer of managed disclosure. The system could say this event has been classified as non-anomalous, but the public would not know what data was used. The system could say this event is unresolved but not a threat, but the public would not see the analysis. The system could say no evidence of extraordinary origin was found, but the public would not know which evidence was withheld. This is the danger. AI does not automatically make disclosure more transparent. It can make analysis more powerful while making the process less visible. That is why governance matters. Who controls the AI? Who audits it? Who decides the categories? Who can review the training data? Who checks for bias? Who gets access to flagged cases? Can Congress see the outputs? Can independent scientists review the methodology? Can the public receive meaningful summaries? These questions are not technical side issues, they are central, because the future of UAP disclosure may depend not only on sensors, but on the sensors interpreting sensor data. If those systems are closed, public trust may not improve, it may get worse. Imagine a future where the government says, we have AI analyzing UAP data and it has found no evidence of non-human technology. Some people will accept that. Others will ask, can we see the data? Can we see the model? Can independent scientists review it? Were classified programs included? Were contractor-held records included? Were historical files included? Were unresolved cases preserved? What counted as evidence? What counted as anomalous? Who was excluded? Those are the right questions because AI does not remove the need for accountability, it increases it. Now let's talk about public science. AI does not have to belong only to government. Academic researchers, private observatories, civilian sensor networks, astronomers, engineers, and independent data scientists may also contribute. This could be one of the most important future developments. Imagine a global network of calibrated sky monitoring stations. Each station records video, infrared, audio, weather, electromagnetic data, and positional information. AI filters out aircraft, satellites, meteors, birds, drones, and known objects. Only high-quality anomalies are flagged. The data is preserved, the methodology is public, the results can be reviewed. That kind of system would be very different from a random phone video. It would create structured evidence, and this is where civilian science could evolve. The UFO world has always had public participation, but public participation has often been uneven. Sightings, stories, videos, forums, speculation. The future could be different. It could involve collaborated instruments, shared standards, open databases, peer review, public dashboards, and AI-assisted filtering. That would not replace military sensors, but it could create an independent evidence stream. That matters because public trust increases when evidence does not depend entirely on classified systems. If government data is hidden, public science can provide another layer. If public science finds nothing, that is also useful. If public science identifies rare anomalies, those can be compared with official data. This is how UAP research becomes more serious, not through belief, through infrastructure. Now, let's be realistic. Artificial intelligence will not solve the UFO mystery overnight. It may explain many cases, it may dismiss many weak reports, it may identify sensor errors, it may reveal patterns of misidentification, it may reduce the number of truly interesting cases. Some people in the UFO community might not like that, but it is necessary. If UAP research is serious, it must be willing to explain cases away. The goal is not to preserve mystery. The goal is to find truth. If 99% of reports have ordinary explanations, then we should want to know that because the remaining 1% becomes more important. That is how science works. It does not protect preferred conclusions, it tests them. AI can help with that testing, but it must be combined with human expertise, transparency, and rigorous evidence standards. Otherwise, it becomes just another black box. And the UFO subject does not need another black box. It already has too many. Classified programs, redacted files, missing radar data, unreleased videos, unclear methodologies, anonymous claims, historical gaps. If AI is going to help, it must open the box, not close it further. Question for you. Would an open, publicly audited AI system make you feel more confident in UAP research than a classified government-only system? Tell me in the comments because transparency may matter as much as technology. Now let's think about what an ideal AI-assisted UAP investigation system would look like. First, it would collect high-quality data, not just any data, calibrated data, time-stamped, location-stamped, sensor-specific, preserved with metadata. Second, it would integrate multiple sources: radar, optical, infrared, acoustic, environmental, satellite, flight tracking, astronomical databases, and drone registries. Third, it would automatically exclude known objects, commercial flights, military lights where possible, satellites, planets, meteors, balloons, weather phenomena. Fourth, it would flag events that do not fit known categories. But flagging would not mean conclusion, it would mean review. Fifth, human experts would examine the flagged cases. Pilots, engineers, scientists, analysts. Six, confidence levels would be assigned. Not yes or no, not alien or not alien, but probability and confidence. Likely aircraft, possible balloon, insufficient data, sensor artifact, unresolved with medium confidence, unresolved with high quality multi-sensor correlation. That last category is the one to watch. Unresolved with high quality multi-sensor correlation. That is the future gold standard. Not just unidentified, not just strange, but unidentified after serious analysis with strong supporting data. This is what could move the field forward. Seventh, public summaries will be released where possible. Enough detail to understand the reasoning, enough transparency to build trust, enough protection to avoid exposing sensitive capabilities. That is difficult, but not impossible. This is what UAP Science should aim for. Now, where does AARO fit into this? AARO exists in the modern UAP landscape as an office intended to address unidentified anomalous phenomenon across domains using a more rigorous and data-driven approach. That mission naturally points toward AI and machine learning, not necessarily as the headline, but as part of the toolkit. Because if UAP reporting grows, human analysts alone may not be enough. They need systems, they need data pipelines, they need automated filtering, they need pattern recognition. They need ways to separate ordinary cases from high-value anomalies. That is why AI is almost inevitable in the future of UAP research. The question is not whether AI will be used, the question is how. openly or secretly, carefully or carelessly, as a tool for transparency or a tool for control, as a filter for serious investigation, or a way to dismiss inconvenient cases. That is why this episode matters. The UAP debate is about to become more technical, less about whether people believe and more about data systems, models, sensors, algorithms, confidence scores, training data sets, anomaly thresholds. That may sound less cinematic than flying saucers, but it is where the future is headed. The UFO era asked, what did the witness see? The UAP Science era asks, what did the network detect? That is a different question. And AI may be the tool that helps answer it, but only if the system is built honestly. Now, as we move toward the final episode of this miniseries, we need to connect AI to the bigger question. What would finally prove a UAP case? Because even if AI detects something unusual, what then? What evidence would convince scientists? What evidence would convince the public? What evidence would convince skeptics? What evidence would convince governments? Would it require radar, infrared, optical video, satellite data, material evidence, repeatable detection, biological evidence, or recovered object, or a direct official admission? That is where we go next. Episode 6 will ask the future of UAP evidence. What would finally prove a UFO case? Because AI may help find the anomaly, but proof requires more than detection. Proof requires evidence strong enough to survive every explanation. And that is the final challenge. As we close episode 5, let's return to the central question. Can AI solve UFOs? The honest answer is not by itself. AI cannot replace evidence. AI cannot replace scientific judgment. AI cannot replace transparency. AI cannot replace public trust. AI cannot turn weak data into strong proof, but AI can change the field. It can help organize historical archives. It can identify patterns across decades of reports. It can filter known objects. It can filter anomalies. It can preserve data faster. It can assist sensor fusion. It can help investigators focus on the strongest cases. It can move UAP research away from isolated stories and towards structured analysis. That is not a small thing. It may be the most important technological shift in the history of the UFO subject, but only if we remember one principle. Artificial intelligence should not tell us what to believe. It should help us ask better questions. The mystery does not end when a machine flags an anomaly. That is where serious investigation begins. Final question for you. Do you believe artificial intelligence will bring us closer to solving the UAP mystery, or will it simply create a new layer of controlled disclosure? Leave your answer in the comments. I want to hear where you stand. This has been UFO to UAP. I'm Matt Tones. This episode 5 of our mini-series, From UFO Files to UAP Science. In the final episode, we will ask the question every case has been building toward. What would finally prove a UFO case? If you found the evidence valuable, follow the show, share it with someone interested in UFO disclosure, UAP science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, AARO, sensor fusion, satellite tracking, and the data of unexplained aerial phenomenon. And remember, AI may not solve the UFO mystery overnight, but it may finally help separate the signal from the noise.